Okay, boxing fans, right now we're going to talk about Robert the Ghost Guerrero fighting champion, WBA champion, sort of champion, paper champion, Keith one-time Thurman. I say that because Keith Thurman recently was elevated from interim champion to full champion without fighting for the title. Don't like that. Considering he's set to face Robert the Ghost Guerrero, surely they should have just made that fight for the vacant title. And, give Robert Guerrero a bit of respect, but apparently not. They've elevated one time, and he's now making the first defense of the title he never won. I'm assuming that a lot of people will be thinking what I'm saying is unfair, because Thurman gets a lot of praise that other boxers do not get. But we'll come on to that later. First of all, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Robert Guerrero's not looked the best lately. He's coming off, what was he coming off? A win over Selko Guide in a life or death fight. A loss to Floyd Mayweather, one-sided, and a life and death fight with Kamagai. While Thurman's coming off a lackluster performance over Leonard Bundu, in which he won the interim title in a decision after giving it the big one on how he's going to kill this guy. But we'll move on from that. This fight, Kingy, is it a good fight?
Yeah, it's definitely a good fight, mate.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a good fight.
What do you think about the title thing?
It just should have been made the WBA title fight, really, shouldn't it? It just makes sense to be the WBA title fight. I mean, especially when the guy's already got a fight, lined up. If that, even when the title becomes vacant, it's always fought for, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they just should have made it the title. But I do like the fight, mate. Definitely, it is a good fight.
Yeah. Last time this happened actually was when Mike Alvarado was made the WBO champion at light welterweight against before he fought Provodnikov. He was made champion like 4 to 5 days before the fight happened, which was a disgrace. But obviously Provodnikov knocked him out. I'm not sure there's much hope of that in this fight. But in this fight, Kingy... Oh no, I'll go to Rory. In fact, Rory, do you think it's a good fight, and what do you think about the title first?
Yeah, I think it's a great fight. I think it's a good step up for Thurman. No his full name on his record. If he beats him, definite step up in class. I think in terms of the whole title thing, I think it's just classic boxing politics, It would have been good to see this fight for the vacant title. However, what I'd probably say is with Robert Guerrero's inactivity, would they justify giving Robert Guerrero a title shot? I'm not too sure. I don't know where he sort of fits in any of the rankings with him being as inactive as he has been. That all being said, though, yeah, great fight, good fight.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, I suppose you could look at it that way, but I suppose giving an undeserving guy a title shot for the vacant title is better than just giving the guy a title in the first place. But not beating around the bush, Kingy. We'll go back to Kingy now. Robert Guerrero is a former featherweight fighter.
Yeah.
Should a big welterweight like Thurman is, and also a guy who is hyped up to be the next coming of Mike Tyson, etc., etc. Someone who's hyped up his power. Let's say that it's by a lot of people. Should they be knocking the fuck out of Robert the Ghost Guerrero?
Yeah, he definitely should. Especially a guy that fights like Robert Guerrero. If it's a guy that's tricky and awkward and good mover and that, then you could maybe say he might not, because the guy might survive through awkwardness and that. You know how it's done. But the way Guerrero fights, yeah, he should do.
Yeah, I agree with that. What are your thoughts, Rory? Do you think he should be knocking the fuck out of someone like Guerrero?
Before, if Guerrero hadn't, fought as badly as he did in his last fight and going toe-to-toe with a guy that was pretty unknown in Kamagai, the Japanese fighter, then I would have said, well, not necessarily, but I mean, a lot of people don't give Guerrero, credit. I mean, he's only, other than Floyd, he only ever lost a split decision, which he ended up avenging later on. But the fact that he's gone all the way from featherweight and he's now fighting at welterweight, added to the fact that he's been very inactive, added to the fact that he went toe-to-toe with a guy that he should have absolutely beaten hands down, added to the fact that he's fought really infrequently since fighting Floyd, just the once in, since May 2013. Add all that together, and Keith Thurman should absolutely blast him out of there.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. Robert Guerrero, if you look at his best performances, Kingy, his best performances were always at the lower weight classes. Like I said, he's went life and death with Kamagai, life and death with I-10, dismantled, and almost he could have been stopped if Floyd gave a shit by Floyd Mayweather. His best fights were against the likes of Katsidis, maybe a bit lower, you know what I mean? Those type of fights where he was able to control range with his height and reach. He's never had great power, but he must have had more pop down there. Stuff like that, basically. The fact that he doesn't fight anything like that now, and he fights this brawler style, not totally against his best attributes and his skills. How is that going to fare in this fight?
Not very well, I don't think, to be honest, mate.
Why is he doing it?
Maybe it's to do with the fact that, he's got his dad as his fucking trainer now, and his dad don't know shit about fucking boxing. Maybe that's what it is, but he's definitely abandoned, the basics that he used to fight under. You still got to use those basics. You can't just come in and expect to trade punches with Thurman, because it's going to end badly. A guy that much bigger, naturally that much bigger than you, is just eventually going to hurt you.
That's right. Yeah. The only thing I can put it down to is that he's doing this style, which is looked at as the Mexican style. Rightly or wrongly, that's what it's looked at as, to try and get fans on board.
Yeah.
That's what I think. But I've just been thinking about that now.
I mean, you've got to think that he's probably got more fans that are Mexican-based than he has American-based.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If you're including Mexican-Americans anyway. So.
What are your thoughts on this subject, Rory?
Yeah, I think it's absolute lunacy if he decides to go in there and just trade with Thurman. Guerrero's never been knocked out, so you'd probably say, well, might have a decent enough chin, but looking at his past fights, and I don't think he's knocked anyone out since, I think it was an 8-rounder back in 2010, and that was just a tune-up fight against a lesser-known opponent. Even going far back to 2009, again, that was just a tune-up sort of fight, where he knocked someone out. Whenever he's come up against decent, good level opposition, very rarely taken a knockout win. So, that alone should tell him enough that he's not got the biggest punching power. And a guy like Thurman, who no one wants to fight through fear of his power, he shouldn't play into his hands. It's just lunacy. Touching on the whole American thing and his fighting style, if you know that you're not the biggest puncher, go back to basics, go back to what you were good at. Even if it was at a lower weight division, why suddenly change at the age of 31? I definitely agree with you in terms of it probably trying to generate a bit of a fan base and make it a bit more exciting. Something that I kind of thought about myself is the fact that if he is he does have his sort of Latin American heritage, and a lot of fans kind of, once they know you sort of have Latin American blood in you and you're from that sort of cloth, that you're meant to fit the stereotype of a Latin American fighter of having great heart, ending up in wars, throwing shots from left, right and centre, and just going toe-to-toe with a guy. It's all well and good being like that, but you don't have to fit that stereotype, especially if it's going to end up basically, like I think in this fight, getting you knocked the fuck out,
Yeah, that's right. That's basically right. we'll end it pretty much on this one then, guys. Are we all? I think we're all predicting the same thing. Are we all predicting Keith Thurman to knock the fuck out of Robert Guerrero in the second half of the fight?
Yeah. Break him down and finish him late. Well, I'd
I
say
don't even know
between
if
7 and 9 I'm going.
I don't even know if it reaches the second round, you know. With his inactivity, Guerrero, I just don't know what sort of shape he's going to be in. I would go anything from rounds 5 to 8, so on the second third of the fight, so somewhere right in the middle.
Yeah, possible. Yeah, it's definitely possible. I'm going to say he's going to get knocked the fuck out in round 7 or something like that. In fact, you're right, Brody. You know something, you're right. If he goes in there the way he has done, stupidly, sometimes against Camel Guy and stuff, he could end up getting sparked unconscious quite quickly.
Very early, yeah.
But like I said, I'm going to end on this one. In fact, this is the better one to end on. As we've all, bought into the hype of Thurman's power and stuff, and the fact this is not just for hype's sake. We're doing it because of evidence that Guerrero's a fighter who should work straight into his style, and also is coming from the lower weight classes. Right? If he cannot bust this guy's ass inside the distance, is this the last time we should hear Keith Thurman, massive puncher, Mike Tyson-esque? You can start King Gear.
I don't think he should be saying he's Mike Tyson-esque anyway, because he's not a puncher. He's a boxer puncher. He uses technique, and I've said it before that it's all right saying a guy's a puncher against people that you can hit flush, but when you come up against guys that don't let you hit them flush so often, it's not as hard to knock guys out, and that's when you find out whether a guy's got real power.
That's right.
And that's what we're going to find out of him. If he can beat Guerrero and then go on to the likes of, say, maybe a Porter or Alexander, that kind of fighter, and do the same to one of them, then you're talking, yeah, the guy's got good power because he's done it against people that can't defend themselves.
Yeah. Rory?
Yeah, I'm with King here, really. I don't think he should be comparing himself to Mike Tyson. I know he's trying to get a bit of exposure, especially a fighter who can't. Although he is getting fights, he's not getting any of the big names like he wants. So I think he's just more of a hype thing.
That's right.
I think if he brutalises him for 12 rounds, I think the sort of the comparison could still be made there. But I think one last thing I'd probably say is that anyone who goes in and basically, overhypes their power and says it's all about the power and knocking guys out, it's great and that's what fans want to say. But I think it does himself a disservice when he is a decent boxer. Why not play on those attributes as well? It's all right to have decent hand speed, to have the boxing attributes.
Yeah.
The decent. That's all just as good. We all like a knockout, but don't downplay them, because I think he just does himself a bit of a disservice, really.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, this is what we'll end on, and I'll end on it, right? He's give it the big in this fight again. If he should knock this guy out. He should knock this guy out quickly. If he doesn't, there's real big danger that he's going to make himself look like the American Tony Bellew. Tell us what you think, guys, of this fight. Tell us who you think's going to win. But I'd be more interested in the people who are picking Robert Guerrero to win, because most people, like all of us here tonight, are picking Thurman via knockout.